All right, so around 3 years ago, I wanted to start going to the gym. And so I'm thinking to myself at home, okay, when's gonna be the right time to start training? Am I gonna train Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday? Or am I, gonna train this split or this split? What machines am I gonna do? What exercises? How many sets? How many reps? I'm thinking to myself all these things, how to build this perfect workout for me. And in doing so, in overthinking exactly what I was gonna do in the gym, I procrastinated actually going to the gym. And so it had been, 1, 2, 3, 4 months at this point. I still hadn't gone to the gym. And after these few months, winter break comes and we have this, 2 week period before we get back into our classes. So I'm thinking, I'm not gonna be busy during these times. Let's actually use the time. Let's build this perfect workout, this perfect split, and start going to the gym. And so that's what I did. And then January comes and I go into the gym and I don't follow my plan at all. Okay. I just went in there and I just went to random machines. I did this machine. Okay, this one is open. So I would go and hit that one. Oh, this one looks cool. I'm going to go do this one. I would just do whatever. But here's the thing, that's okay. Because in going to the gym and just doing whatever I saw, okay, for 1 hour, I had made more progress in that 1 hour than I did in the previous 4 months of just overthinking and trying to make the perfect workout, to make the perfect split. So that's what I want to talk about in this video. All this overthinking, this excessive planning, trying to make the perfect decision, trying to choose the perfect option. All of this is no good for progress. It's no good for the gym. It's no good for your relationships. It's no good for school. It's no good for your work, because it prevents you from doing the actual thing that's going to make the progress, which is taking action, which is doing. And so that's what I want you to adopt. That's the mindset I want you to adopt in this video, because since I've been shifting from this mindset of just trying to, think, make things perfect, to more of just a doing mindset, I found a lot more success. I found a lot more fulfillment in my life as a student. Okay, I've been able to maintain my grades in school, my performance in school, while still being able to progress in the other aspects of life that are important to me. My relationships, the gym, running, other aspects of my health, sleep, all these other aspects that are important to me. Okay, by prioritizing doing instead of just thinking, I save myself so much, energy, so much mental space, so much time, and all this energy, all this time can then be spread out into the aspects of my life that are actually important to me, that bring me that fulfillment. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. And the first insight that I want you to take from this video is that overthinking, this excessive thinking, trying to make the perfect decision, really, it doesn't accomplish that much. And I think the best way to explain this is with an analogy. So think about, let's say you were at a crossroads, an intersection, okay? And so you're at a three-way intersection, all right? You have three options when you get there. Let's say you were trying to find the gym and you almost got there, but then your phone died, and so you don't know if you're supposed to turn left or right, okay? You have three options, okay? You can turn left, you can turn right, or you can sit back and you can think, hey, what did the map say? And you try to remember and think, which way were you supposed to go? So, of course, what I'm getting at with this is that if you choose to sit at the intersection, if you choose to stay there and not make a decision, you're just trying to think, what's the perfect decision? Which way am I supposed to go? That's obviously not accomplishing anything, okay? Because you know that left or right, one of these ways is going to be the right way. So the best option you have is not to sit there, but it's to just take action, okay? Just take some action, turn one direction, try one way, and if it's not the right way, you can turn around, because you know that the gym is right around the corner. So it's either right around the corner left or right around the corner right. You know it's right around the corner, okay? All you got to do is go and see. But a lot of people, myself included, struggle with this. And you think that, hey, I'm just going to sit here, I'm going to think, I'm going to wait for that perfect decision until I have perfect information to make the, entirely informed decision. But a lot of times, a lot of things in life, you're never going to have the information to make the entirely perfectly informed decision. In the case where you don't know where to go, left or right, you don't know which way the gym is, okay? Sitting at the intersection and waiting and thinking, which way is it? Was it left? Was it right? I don't really know. You don't gain anything from that, okay? You don't gain any extra insight that's going to actually help you get to the gym faster, all right? But in turning left, okay, you either get to the gym and boom, you're there, okay? You took action and you're there. Or you turn left, you see that the gym isn't here, okay, then it must have been right. You turn around and you go the other way, all right? It's so much more effective to just take the action, even if it's from imperfect information. Even if you're wrong in taking the action, nothing is permanent. You can always come back. You can always, pull a U-turn. You turn left, okay, now you can pull a U-turn. I guess it's right for you guys. But you pull a U-turn and you head back the other way, okay? It's not, you know, impossible. It's never as hard as people think to just reverse decisions, okay? But it is powerful to make a decisive decision to start with instead of just thinking and waiting and overthinking, trying to get this perfect information. And you're sitting there waiting for perfect information that never comes. So this overthinking, this excessive thinking, trying to make the perfect plan accomplishes nothing. And the better thing to do is just take action. Take the action, even if it's based on imperfect information, even if you're entirely uneducated on something, even if you don't have all the information. The best thing you can do is just start by throwing yourself into the deep end. That's where you're going to get the extra information. That's, where you're going to see, okay, this is the next step I can take. Because when you're sitting at that intersection, you don't know what's, down the road. But once you're on the road, okay, now you have a little bit more view. Now you can see, okay, I can see all the buildings that are down that way. I can see all the buildings that are down that way. But from the perspective of, the intersection, you don't see that yet, okay? So you need to just take the step, just get on the road, and then you can really make a better informed decision. You're going to see what next steps you can take instead of trying to anticipate all the things that are going to come up that you don't even know if they're going to come up or what's going to come up, okay? So the best thing you can do is just take the step, just turn left in the case of the road analogy, or just go to the gym and do any machine in the case of my story at the beginning of the video. Just taking the action is what is going to get you the result. It's what's going to push you forward, get you more progress than any amount of overthinking and perfect planning is going to get you. So, that brings up the question then, why do people do it? Why do people choose to sit at the intersection? Or why did I choose to sit, and wait for 4 months before actually going to the gym when my decision was already made? I knew I wanted to go. I was just putting it off and trying to make this thing perfect. And it's because thinking about it is a lot easier than actually doing it, okay? Let's say maybe you're trying to build a business or something, okay? It's very easy to sit and watch business video after business video after business video and collect information all the time, but it's a lot harder to actually sit down and take the first steps to building a business that you want. And it was a lot easier for me in that first scenario to sit and watch fitness videos and make a plan on notes and do all this stuff than it was to actually, go to the gym, because that's a more difficult task. That task has more weight to it. Of course, there's a little bit more fear associated with that harder task. And so you need to recognize these things and think, hey, how much do you value your time? Because yes, sitting and learning and thinking and all this stuff is good, okay, but how much do you value your time? Is it really worth sitting and watching maybe 7 hours of fitness content over the course of a week to make the perfect program? Or is it more worth it just to go to the gym, start talking to the guy who looks like he knows what he's doing, and then just go from there? Because, in the first situation, all right, you spent 7 hours this week, maybe you were like me, you spent 4 months making the perfect program, trying to do all this stuff, and then I get to the gym and it all goes out the window. Or you are the other guy, okay, the person who just went to the gym and started talking to the guy who looks like he knows what he's doing. And in day one, you're already in the gym, which is 4 months ahead of where I was at, and you're probably in a better starting place than I was at, because even though I spent 4 months preparing, all right, I still didn't take any action. I still didn't gain any experience. And because on day one, you're already getting the advice, the expertise, the information from the guy who knows what he's doing. And so, of course, that little help there, that just speaking to someone, is going to be better than that 4 months of research from someone who has zero experience in the gym. Okay, so not only did they have a 4 month head start, they also started off stronger because they just chose to go and to speak to somebody, right? And so you're going to be thinking, how much time, how much energy are you putting into these things? Because all this overthinking, all this excessive planning is nothing without the execution. It's like, let's say, 2 days from now, I have a test or an exam to write. And instead of actually doing the studying for the exam, I'm sitting here watching videos about how to study or how to be more productive or how to, make better decisions or all these things, right? Those things have value. Of course, there's value in, listening and learning from other people. I do it all the time. That's why I'm making these videos. But at some point, you need to recognize, okay, is this the time for listening, learning, or is this the time for doing? And in the case of, me sitting down to study for my test, the productive thing is to sit down and study for the test. The productive thing isn't to sit and watch a video about how to study for a test, all right? That can be some other time, all right? Maybe you have certain time set aside during the day where you dedicate it to learning or whatever it is, all right? But understand that the progress comes from the doing. It's like myself, okay? I used to run a very rigid calendar, okay? And so at the beginning of the week, I would plan exactly what I was doing for the rest of the week. And this would take a period of time, right? Because you're planning your putting in blocks. I'm going to do this homework at this time. I'm going to do this homework at this time. And I would spend all this time planning, but I would always overestimate the amount of work I was putting in. So I was doing all this planning. I was putting this work at this time, this work at this time, and it wasn't useful because if any disruption came up, I need to go in and adjust the whole schedule. So now, of course, I still schedule. Of course, I still use a calendar because they're good things, but I don't use it in this rigid, non-robust way that I used to. And so all that thinking, all the planning that went into making this perfect calendar meant nothing if I couldn't execute on it, if I couldn't actually take the action. And so now, okay, I still use a calendar because a calendar is a great tool and it can really help you understand where your time is going, how you can fit certain things in and how you can't fit certain things in, but I do it in a very different way, all right? Now, instead of running this super rigid calendar, I just have general blocks of when I do certain things generally throughout the week, okay? And this works a lot better for me. I set goals for the week, I set goals for the day, and my goal, my priority in the day is to get that work done, get the things done during the available time that I have. And so by doing this, it prioritizes the execution instead of just the excessive planning that I couldn't even act on, that I couldn't even execute on like before. And so that's what I want you to think about. Of course, there's value in planning. Of course, there's value in having a schedule and having a timetable, in planning certain things. But again, if that inhibits your ability, if that takes away from your ability to take the action, then what was the point? Because the whole point of making a timetable, let's say, is to allow you to take action on the things that you want to do. And if it's preventing you from doing that, then it's counterproductive and we need to work out something else, okay? So know that the ultimate goal for most things is to actually do the thing, right? Let's say you watch a video about going to the gym. Is it because you actually just want to watch the video about going to the gym? No, it's because in the end, you want to build the physique, you want to go to the gym and reach your goal, right? And so if over-consuming media about fitness is preventing you, is taking away from actually doing the goal, actually making progress towards the goal, then it's counterproductive. And so you want to always be aware of these because it's very easy to fall into the mindset that what you're doing is productive. But if it's taking away, or if it's taking away from some other aspect of your life that you're trying to make progress in, then maybe it's not as productive as you think. Maybe it's time to, take a step back on the thinking, the planning, the consumption, and just reverse that. Spend that time on doing. You're going to free up a lot more energy, a lot more mental space to spend on other things. There's one other really good example that I heard about pretty much why doing is the thing that actually leads to results. And it's that assume there is a pottery class, okay? And in that pottery class, they're split into two groups, okay? And one group is told, hey, your goal is to make the best pot, period, okay? You have this whole, 1 week period, 2 week period to make the best pot you can. And the other group is told, hey, just make the most pots possible. Your whole goal is to make the most pots. And at the end of the 2 weeks, 2 months, I don't know what it was, they come back and guess who had the better pots? It was the group of students whose goal was to make the most pots, because these students, they only had one pot to work on. They had to think, they had to plan, they had to, make this thing perfect. But the other group, they would just, make one pot. Okay, it didn't turn out very nice. I'm going to make another one. Okay, it's a little bit better. I'm going to make another one. It's a little bit better. And so by the end of the period, they had a better pot than the other group, even though the goal of this group wasn't to make the best pot. And so again, this kind of shows that taking the action is what results in the progress, not the thinking, not the over planning, not the making the perfect decision. Because we've seen now with many examples that just isn't how it works, right? And so we really want to be shifting our mindset from thinking to doing. And there's one other big advantage to this, and it's one that's, less focused on productivity or doing or, any of these things, trying to reach some level in your goals, okay? Because those are good. Of course, we want to make progress in our goals. We want to spend our time well, but also the one other negative of this overthinking is that thinking generally just pulls you out of the present, okay? I know at times, you can't help it. I can't help it sometimes. I go to the gym and I'm thinking about this project that I have for school, okay? And it's like, oh, the deadline is this time. I should be working on it. I shouldn't be in the gym. I should be going to help my team. I should be doing this. I should be doing this. I should be doing this. And I'm thinking about all these things. Okay, where am I going to make up this time? How am I going to work on it? Oh, I'm going to spend 2 hours on it here. I'm going to spend 2 hours on it here. And I go on and on and on about how are we going to get this project done in time, okay? People can sense that on you, okay? And it's just not nice to be around. And it's not nice for you either. You feel so out of it. You miss out on those quick conversations, those nice social interactions. People probably can't even put their finger on it, but they just wouldn't want to be around you like 20% more. And you're probably not enjoying, the conversation or the whole gym session like 80% more. And so, all this overthinking, this planning, when you're always so out of it, when you're not in the moment, people can sense it on you and you just feel so out of it. And it's not as enjoyable of a being. It's not as enjoyable of an experience. You know, when you go to the gym, you want to go to the gym. You want to lift weights. You want to talk to these people around you. You want to, enjoy going to the gym for going to the gym. All right. When you go on a walk, okay, you want to enjoy going for a walk for what it is, going for a walk. When you hang out with your friends, you want to be in the moment, be present, hang out with your friends, right? You don't want to be thinking about the other aspects, trying to make this thing perfect, trying to make this thing, oh, I got to make this right decision. Of course, sometimes it's unavoidable. Sometimes you just can't help it, okay? But if you're always in the habit of overthinking and making these perfect decisions and trying to think like this, on your own, then when it comes to these situations when you're in the gym, these situations when you're with your friends, these situations when you definitely don't want to be overthinking, then you need to be in the habit of not overthinking, not over planning your decisions when you're on your own. Because when you do that, you're just training your brain to think like this. You're training your brain to always overthink these decisions, to try to always make these perfect plans, to try to always wait for perfect information. Of course, there's a time and a place for thinking. Allowing your brain time to think and generate ideas is really good, and it's really healthy. It's good to be bored and have your brain generate thoughts. What's not good is allowing your brain to unnecessarily eat up all your time, eat up all your energy on things that you, can't control, or things that you can also just do instead, that you're going to make more progress in by just stepping into the gym and doing, or just by turning left on the street, even if it's the wrong direction, okay? Having time to think is good. But what we don't want to do is unnecessarily spend our time, spend our energy on things that really don't make that progress, right? We already saw with the examples earlier on that thinking, all this extra planning, making that schedule, thinking about the perfect split that I was going to take into the gym, or, the pottery example. We saw with all these examples that the actual act of doing is what resulted in more progress, all right? And we also saw that the extra thinking really just puts you in a bad mindset. You just don't enjoy the situations you're in nearly as much. So why do it? All right. Of course, it's inevitable. Of course, it's going to happen sometimes, but we can take steps against that, right? We want to build that decisiveness so you can just take the action and learn as you go, okay? Because that's what's really going to get you the results, and that's what's going to be more enjoyable anyway. So that's it. I hope this video has helped you.